Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a good week. It's getting close to Christmas, you can tell. A couple of reasons. Snowing. That's a good one. What happened to my overlay? There we go. It's snowing. That's how you can tell. But also the amount of mess behind me. All that stuff. And also behind me, there's just chaos everywhere. This is like the room that, is not the Christmas room. And so all the stuff gets put in here. That's fine. So what are we doing? A couple of things to talk about today, including some things actually that are going to be blog posts coming up this week. You are lucky because as part of this kind of process of doing the weekly update, it always makes me go and see what the new news is, and I try and leave that as late as possible to get anything that's kind of breaking and just happened. So it often happens that I come across things that I think, that would make a good blog post, and then I'll talk about it in the weekly update before the blog post goes out. So actually you're getting the information that I'm going to blog about next week, you're getting it slightly early, and that's true for at least two of the things that we're going to be talking about today. All right, let's get into it. The first thing I do want to tell you about first is a blog post I did in the week all about licensing. Well, not all about licensing, but just a little bit of licensing. And that's around Power App development. So if you are a developer who does Power App development, you may already know this. But if you don't, I hope this is useful. Or if, like me, you are kind of getting into Power App development, it's not really what you do day to day, but you're kind of interested in it and you're finding out more about it and you're using it sometimes for some things. Well, it turns out there is a free developer plan you can use, which will give you access to Power Apps, to Power Automate, and the rest of the Power Platform, which is good to know. I think sometimes I have a little bit of a blind spot around licensing because, we're very lucky as MVPs. One of those things that you kind of get as an MVP is licensing, and that tends to cover most of your needs, really. That's actually not quite true for Power App development sometimes, but actually the combination of that plus work plus all the other things kind of means that you tend to be covered for licensing. So it isn't something I think about very often, but I know for lots of people it is a blocker, especially in big organizations as well. You have to go and get approval because it's money, right? You have to go and get approval to get a license to do some of this stuff, and that can be a blocker. So I did want to bring this to your attention. There is a plan for developers. It gives you a whole bunch of stuff. It gives you access to lots of the Power Platform. It gives you access to Dataverse. You can use Visual Studio. You can use Visual Studio Code, or you can use Azure. There is a development-only plan, so you can't use it for production stuff. It is just meant for building and testing. But you can go and get it. There's a sign-up link at the bottom. It gives you a maximum of 750 Power Automate flows, or a maximum database size of 2 gig, which feels like it's going to be enough for anyone. So if that sounds like it might be useful to you, if that unblocks you, great. I didn't know about this. It's actually been around for a little while, at least kind of May, I want to say. And I noticed there's a disclaimer. There's a disclaimer on one of the pages that says it's good until at least March 2023. I know it's not that far away, but at least it means it's not going away at the end of this year or anything like that. So go and make use of that if you think it would be useful. It is intended to help you kind of get started with Power Apps development and, Power Automate, Power Apps, Power Automate, Dataverse, all that kind of low-code stuff. If you've not experienced it before, if you've not tried it, this might be a good way in. With a developer plan means you can kind of kick the tires on it and see what you think. All right, let's do something else. Let's talk about something that is new for Microsoft Teams developers. I haven't blogged about this yet. I will in the week because it's only just popped up in the last couple of days, which is quite exciting. And that's something new in Microsoft Graph. And it's so new I haven't got any other information about it other than this page. A new API call for Microsoft Graph to let us set the status message of of the user's presence. So right now, no. So you might be getting confused. Like, Tom, we've been able to do this for a long time. No. What you've been able to do is set the presence of a user. What you haven't been able to do is set the status message of a user. So if you go into Teams, you can change presence, but you can also set your own message. So this is kind of interesting that you can now do this programmatically. Now, couple of caveats. First of all, this is just delegated permissions right now. There is no application support for this. So what does that mean? It means that you can't write a back-end headless application that changes 20 different people's users' status messages. You can't do that. What you can do is have an application that the user has signed into. The user is there, they have consented, like a web page app or something like that. They've signed in, they've shown up, and now you can set their status message. So this is interesting. It's good. It's progress, I think. Let's have a look. So I'm looking at this exactly at the same time as you are. I haven't really kind of looked at this before now. It looks like you'll be able to provide a JSON object with the present status message. I'm just digging into this because I want to see, yes, you can set the expiry time. So that's interesting. You can set the message. You can also set a expiry, which is the same experience that you get in the Teams UI, where you can set a message and also set an expiry date. So for instance, I'm out all day today doing a conference or like doing some training. Don't try and message me or whatever. I'll be back Monday. You can set an expiry time on that for the end of Friday so that it automatically removes itself. That's good to know that you can do that in the API as well. So this is brand new, and it's in the beta endpoint right now. Obviously, new things come to beta endpoint first. And so I don't know what sometimes happens with these brand new commands is that you try them out in your tenant and they don't immediately work. So you just need to give it maybe a couple of days, couple of weeks to let it roll out to all the tenants. That might be true in this case. I don't know. I'm going to be trying it later when I write up the blog post about it. But interesting. So what is kind of interesting, sorry, I should do more prep for these, but one of the challenges with doing weekly updates is you want to get the latest information, which this absolutely is, but it doesn't give you an awful lot of time to prep for it. What is interesting is that it looks like there's a get status message. Now, there's a set status message. There's also a get status message by the look of it, because this second example here is getting the status message of another user. And the following request sets the present status message for this user. Then presence for this other user, same user, different user, is obtained on behalf of another user via a get presence request. I don't really understand what that means. Here we go. You can make a request on behalf of another user. Okay, so when you're doing get presence, I don't think this is new information actually. You can get presence of a different user by specifying the full ID of the user in there. So because it's not a self-presence request, you only get the message, you don't get the expiry date or the publish time. That kind of makes sense. So the experience is very much the same as in the UI. So you can set your own presence with the dates, or you can get another user's presence message, but you don't get the dates. But that sort of makes sense. That maps and matches what is true in the UI as well. So that's kind of interesting. So that is coming soon. I think it's good. It's good functionality to have, and it kind of means that we're kind of adding to the API to match the things that users can do in the UI, and I think that's important. Okay, let's jump to a blog post by Daniel Carrasco. This is kind of an introductory blog post for people getting into Microsoft Teams development. So if you are watching this because you are brand new into Microsoft Teams development, this could be the perfect blog post for you. I would say if you're experienced in Teams development, this probably isn't the blog post for you. I don't think there's an awful lot new in here, but this is a good roundup of 10 different ways that you can get started really with doing Teams development. And it's really a listing of the different ways that you can extend Teams. So you've got things like tabs, you've got bots, messaging extensions. Like I say, none of this I don't think is particularly new, but it's good to have an updated list every now and again that covers things like meeting extensions, webhooks, task modules, and live share. Again, those are kind of live share, particularly kind of relatively new capabilities. And then talking a little bit about the extension of taking Teams apps and making them more available to Outlook and other Office applications. So again, not particularly new, but it's good to have all in one place, this kind of roundup. And I love these graphics. I think they're lovely. But yeah, good to have that blog post out there. It's kind of good to throw people out if they say, well, what is Teams development? What can you do as a Teams developer? It's good to have an updated Microsoft written blog post out there that just kind of highlights all the different things available to you. So that's good to see. All right, let's talk about something else that is brand new that I will be blogging about later. But again, you're hearing about it right now because it is super new. And that is something that's just popped up on the Microsoft 365 roadmap around video filters in Microsoft Teams. So, deep breath. Video filters in Microsoft Teams. I think we know what video filters are. We've seen them in Snapchat. We've seen them in Zoom. And it looks like they're coming to Microsoft Teams. Now, that by itself is not, I mean, it might be interesting, but it's not interesting for this particular podcast, and I don't particularly care for that. What makes it interesting is the wording of the Microsoft 365 roadmap item, which seems to indicate that it will be app developers, so us, who will be creating and making those filters. So that does make it interesting because that is a new extension point for developers that we didn't have before. Let me show you this roadmap item. It is 86811. The title is Microsoft Teams Video Filters in Microsoft Teams Meetings. Video filters allow participants in Teams meetings to augment their video stream with visual effects. And then this sentence, which caught my interest, the effects are provided by app developers on Teams platform. So you could read that in one of two different ways. You could read it as the effects are going to be provided by Microsoft's app developers in the Teams platform division, or you could interpret it as the effects are provided by third-party app developers developing on the Teams platform. I think it's the second one. I think this is a new extension point. I don't have any other information other than it is due to GA in February. It's only just been added to the roadmap. It's currently in development. I'm hopeful we'll find out more information about this, but it does sound pretty interesting. I don't know how this is going to work particularly, how developers are going to be able to add video filters, whether or not... but I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine how it's going to work, to be honest. Normally things like video filters are done as client-side effects through like WebGL and stuff like that. There doesn't seem to be that kind of integration in Microsoft Teams at the moment, but maybe there will be. Maybe there is something coming in the future we don't know about. So we're going to have to wait and see on this and wait for some more information to see exactly what that looks like and exactly how participants are going to be able to augment their video stream with visual effects. Can't wait to see. Sounds interesting, but that's something fun for us to look forward to in the new year. Finally, one more thing to tell you about. God, we're getting long today. And again, I'm just going to touch on this because it's not, again, really the focus of this podcast. But I do just want to mention it because it is kind of noteworthy and newsworthy, and that's Microsoft Teams Premium. So we've talked about it, I think, briefly before. I might have just brushed over it because, again, it doesn't really affect developers that much. But just to let you know that the Teams Premium preview is now available. So that means that if you want to, anybody can go and get a Teams Premium license in preview. It's a 30-day preview. So maybe, so Tony Redmond had a write-up about this and made a really good suggestion that because the preview period is only 30 days and looks like it can't be extended, maybe wait until after the holiday period before you pull the trigger on it, before you kind of trigger that 30-day window. Otherwise, you're just going to, burn up 10 of your days over Christmas and New Year. So, you can go and get this. It's a kind of a zero-cost license that you can get at the admin center by the look of it. And there's a whole bunch of links about all the different features that are available. Some of them are coming soon, so you won't be able to try them. But at least you will be able to get a sense of what Teams Premium is like today compared to what it would be like without Teams Premium. And then they've got some information about the GA timeline being early February. And then some other things like other timelines around the intelligent recap features will be rolling out in the first half of 2023. So that's how you can do it. If that sounds interesting to you, go and get your licenses, make a judgment call on whether you get them now or in January. I think that's everything for this week. Quite a lot of new stuff and a lot of new stuff that came kind of right at the end of last week. So I haven't had loads of time to digest it, but that's exciting and gives us lots to talk about and think about going into Christmas and that kind of holiday period. So I think that's all good. All right, I think that's everything from me. I will do another one next week, but I think it's probably going to be probably a best of, because I can't imagine there's going to be an awful lot of news between now and next week. Although you never know, maybe Microsoft kind of slide out some new announcements in the next few days. We'll have to wait and see. If not, I'll probably do a kind of best of 2022, because that next week will also be the last weekly update in 2022. So all of that being said, have a great week. Whatever it is you're doing, get ready for Christmas if that's your thing. Have a restful holiday if it's not. Have a restful holiday anyway. And I will talk to you again next time on the weekly update.